Why did God destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? That is the question. I repeat, why did God destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? Well, the answer is in Jude 7, one verse. In Jude 7 it says, even as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities about them, in like manner, giving themselves over to fornication and going after strange flesh, are set forth an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Now, what did it say? Sodom and Gomorrah gave themselves over to fornication. Now, the word fornication in the Greek is all-inclusive. See, when I grew up in church, the word fornication meant to me now not having sex between a male and a female that's not married. But it means more than just that. This word is all-inclusive. Two men engaging in sexual perversion. Two men really can't have sex, so. But still, that's fornication. Two women engaging in sex perversion, that's fornication. A male and a female having sex outside of marriage, that's fornication. Well, let me read this same verse in some different translations now for clarity. New International Version. In a similar way, Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding towns gave themselves up to sexual immorality and perversion. They serve as an example of those who suffer the punishment of eternal fire. The New Living Translation says, and don't forget Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighboring towns. Notice now, don't forget Sodom and Gomorrah and their neighboring towns, which was filled with immorality and every kind of sexual perversion. Those cities were destroyed by fire and serve as a warning of the eternal fire of God's judgment. See, notice now, not only did God destroy Sodom and Gomorrah with fire and brimstone, he also destroyed neighboring towns around Sodom and Gomorrah. Why neighboring towns? Because they were also influenced by Sodom and Gomorrah. See, they were influenced by Sodom and Gomorrah. And something that's very interesting about that is in Romans 1. Now, Romans 1 has quite a few verses that deals with the sin of homosexual and lesbianism. But I'm going to read just the last verse in Romans 1. And it says in verse 32, who knowing the judgment of God, that they which committed such things are worthy of death. Who are they talking about? The homosexuals and the lesbians. Not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. In other words, the homosexuals and the lesbians want others to do what they do. And they have pleasure in that. Now, isn't it interesting? They love for people to imitate them. They want people to imitate them. See, but God calls it an abomination. Leviticus 18th chapter and Leviticus 20th chapter. But why did God destroy Sodom and Gomorrah with fire and brimstone? Do you know of any other group of people or any other nation in the Bible where God destroyed their cities like he did Sodom and Gomorrah? No, you do not. Only Sodom and Gomorrah and neighboring towns were destroyed by fire and brimstone. Why? This is the reason why. Right here. This book is called Sexually Transmitted Diseases in Homosexual Men. Diagnosis, Treatment, and Research. And this book is a 72 pages long. It deals with the numerous sexual transmitted diseases among homosexual men, as well as their very unusual sexual practices. It's in this book. This is why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah with fire and brimstone, because only fire and brimstone could get rid of those diseases at that time. There was no such thing as modern science. There was no such thing as penicillin. And there's no such thing as, you've seen these TV programs about, they got this new pill out there it won't cure AIDS, but it will keep it from spreading within the person or something like that. And they got, not only that, they got about 2 or 3 of them now. See, but there are all kind of medications that homosexuals have to take. They really are people. They try to keep them alive and try to keep many of these numerous sexually transmitted diseases at bay. This is the first book that I bought. This is the second book that I bought. This book is called The Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome and Infections of Homosexual Men. This book is 442 pages long. Now, the first book had 17 doctors that contributed to that book. This book got 57 doctors that attributed to this book. Now, this book was written in 1983, at the height of the AIDS crisis. This book was written in 1984. This is the second book that I bought. Not only that, why did God destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? This is the third book that I bought. That's right, people. The third book that I bought. This book is called AIDS and Infections of Homosexual Men. This book is 522 pages long. Now, the first book don't have pictures in it. The second book does, and the third book does. 1,200 some pages or 300 some pages of pictures and information written by medical doctors to educate other medical doctors on the infections of, number 1, HIV and other sexually transmitted diseases in homosexual men. Homosexual men have more diseases than you can even comprehend. They do. That's why God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah with fire and brimstone. Because there was no such thing as medications and different things at that time. God had to wipe out Sodom and Gomorrah and the other cities. If not, the sexually transmitted diseases that the homosexuals were spreading at that time would have literally destroyed most of the people on this planet. You think I'm lying, people? You don't have these books. I bought all three of these books for $10 a piece. That's right, $10. You can't buy these books now for $10 a piece. It's going to cost you $100. It's anywhere from $100 to $300 each now, if you can find them. I'm serious. If you can find them. See, most people don't know how infectious a homosexual male really is. He can be one of the nicest people on this earth, but he is a walking disease. This book right here said that 1 in every 4 homosexuals was infected with 1 to 4 sexually transmitted diseases. Let me repeat that again. Sorry, people. 1 in every 4 homosexuals, was infected between 1 to 4 sexually transmitted diseases. 1 in every 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, infected. 5, 6, 7, 8, infected. 9, 10, 11, 12, infected. 13, 14, 15, 16, infected. 20, infected. 24, infected. And many of them had more than one sexually transmitted disease at a time. That's how infected they are. But yet when you look at him, you can't tell if he's infected or not. Why? Because these diseases centers around his rectum, anus area, his penis, and inside of his mouth. But when you look at him, he looks healthy. When you look at him, he looks normal. When you look at him, he looks fine. Pleasant attitude, highly educated, and they are everywhere. Everywhere, people. I've been around homosexuals and grew up with them ever since the 60s. I was born in 1950. Junior high school, neighbors, high school, church, relatives. But these are men that have been converted into one of the most dangerous sexual activities on this planet. They are people. I'm just being honest. Why do you think 35 million people are in their graves now from AIDS, HIV? Because HIV AIDS came through homosexuals, young white homosexuals. They blamed it on Africa. They blamed it on Haiti. But nobody even heard of HIV AIDS until some young white males had symptoms of a disease called corpuscular sarcoma. And they were dying very rapidly, and the doctors couldn't understand why. So the alphabet people at that time, which was called LGB, at that time, LGB, began to come out with disinformation to blame it on anybody but themselves. That's right. They were LGBT in the beginning. They weren't LGBT. They were LGBT in 1970, 71, 72 when they began to start protesting. So, why did God destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? One, 2, 3. Now, these books was written by medical doctors. These medical doctors got degrees I never even heard of. Extremely intelligent. And these books were written for other medical doctors. Because back in the 80s, there wasn't that many people that were educated on how to treat homosexuals. They were not. So therefore, these professionals from every phase of the medical field, every phase, people from psychiatry, blood banking, you name it, gynecologists, whatever profession, contributed to these 3 books to help educate other medical doctors on how to treat the numerous sexually transmitted diseases that homosexuals still have. So why would a male engage in such crazy behavior? The lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life. And the scripture says this is not of the Father, but of the world, 1 John. It's a lust. It's lust. It's pure lust. And unfortunately, it's demonic oppression. I've came across this demon. I really have. And it's interesting how this demon operates in people. They weren't born that way. They were converted by another person, or demon spirits just told them that they were that way. That's right. They weren't born that way. A male is not born to be with another male. Male sperm don't belong in another male. That's crazy. Everybody got here through a male and a female, an egg and a sperm. Nobody got here through 2 men or 2 males. Nobody got here through 2 females. That's crazy. No one came here through 2 men. What's so positive about a man putting his sperm in another man? Give me one positive anything about a man putting his sperm in another man. But when a male put his sperm in a female, da-da, here I am. Da-da, there you are. All the people on this planet came from a male and a female. Nobody got here through 2 males. Nobody got here through 2 females. Nobody got here through a transgender and with a prostate looking like a female, and a man put his sperm in that artificial hole and a baby came out. Yeah, right. Not going to happen. Everybody got here through sperm and an egg. That's the only way to get here. But they want us to believe their nonsense. And people, I can just go on and on and on and on. I need to read some stuff, but I might have to do a part 2 to this because I haven't even got close. Because here is something called Rectal Insertion of Foreign Bodies by Male Homosexuals that I have downloaded from the internet many years ago. And it talks about how homosexuals have a compulsion of putting stuff inside of their rectums. And doctors had to get all kind of things out of their rectums because they put these things up there behind so far and it's hard to get it out, so they have to go to the medical doctors to get that thing out of their behinds. I'm going to just read this first paragraph because it's way more worse than this. It's a page and a half. I'm just going to read a paragraph. Rectal insertion of foreign bodies by male homosexuals. Some homosexuals insert foreign bodies into their rectum for pleasure. Occasionally, while moving an object back and forth, a homosexual or his partner may lose his grip on the object and the foreign body gets sucked into the colorectum. In emergency departments, some such objects recovered from the colorectum of homosexuals include soft drink and other bottles, jars, light bulbs, candles, fruits like bananas, apples, vegetables like cucumbers, onions, potatoes, carrots, and turnips, dildos, vibrators, tumblers, a polythene waste trap from the U-bin of a sink, salami, sponge rubber balls, a steer's horn, or steers, S-T-E-E-R-S, a steer's horn, baseballs, tennis balls, hard-boiled eggs, sand-filled bicycle inner tubing, and an aluminum tube used by a prisoner to store money and other valuables. That's in parentheses. Broomsticks, broom handles, various types of brushes, axe handles, whip handles, and kitchen items such as spatula, ice pick, I don't know what mortar pestle is, whatever that is. A typical patient that presents in the emergency department with colorectal foreign objects as a male homosexual. The other patients are women or patients who have been rectally assaulted with a foreign body. That's what has been taken out of the rectums of homosexuals. Behinds. Because they put those objects in their behinds for pleasure. I'm through now, people. Why did God destroy Sodom and Gomorrah? He had to protect mankind. God bless.